Ooh, all right, everybody. Welcome back for another exclusive video for you, my dear patrons. I'm now saying patron instead of Patreons. Is this website called Patron or Patreon? Is it just spelled Patreon and it's supposed to be pronounced? Anyways, I guess you are patrons on my Patreon. Regardless, hello. I hope you're doing well. I've got another video here where I'm drawing with the old vintage Waterman fountain pen, which I bought at the pen con that I went to. I think I have conveniently blocked out from my memory how much I spent on this pen, but it was way too much. I probably said how much it was in a video at some point. $100 or $2, I think. But it is one of my favorite pens for sure. Mostly because it's got a history, right? It's like one of the only fountain pens I have that I bought used, and I don't even know who it was used by or what it was used for besides hopefully writing and drawing or sitting around. Yeah, it's like 100 years old almost. Anyways, I just got back from New York, and I had to stay there a few days extra than I expected. This is my second time to New York City, and the adjoining areas. The first time I went there a few years ago, I was there around January or February, and I also had to stay there a few days extra that time because every time I go there, my flights keep getting canceled for unforeseen weather reasons. That first time there was a terrible, terrible blizzard. They tell me it was the worst blizzard in recorded history for New York. I mean, I don't know what normal New York blizzards are normally like, but it was all travel was banned. You weren't even allowed to drive on the roads, and they were using like trash trucks and school buses and stuff to plow. And I remember going out on like Fifth Avenue or whatever, this big downtown road. Me and my friend, my ex-roommate, we were traveling there, just visiting. We were staying in some hotel right next to the Empire State Building. I remember going out right on this main street, I think Fifth Avenue. I don't know the names of the streets, but it was right there, right next to Empire State Building. I walked down the street right in the middle, right at nighttime, and I just stepped right out there, and it was just completely empty. There was just some like one or two other people walking across it. It seemed very apocalyptic. It was cool. It was very surreal. And anyways, so then a few years later, I scheduled this trip, and I told my cousin, I was like, well, last time I came here, they had a blizzard. I wonder, what natural disaster will happen this time. And sure enough, I come to New York this time, and whammo blammo, Hurricane Florence swings in. But not to New York this time, but from the place I'm leaving. So I don't know if I should ever risk going to New York again. What if there's like a crazy solar flare or a tsunami or an earthquake? Maybe there'll be a repeat. I don't know. It's just I'm 2 for 2 right now with traveling to New York and awful natural disasters happening. But New York was great. I walked around a lot, looked at things. I went to the MoMA again. I posed and took my picture with Starry Night by Van Gogh. I feel like everyone here says Van Gogh, and then like the real way to say it Van Gogh? Or is it some weird word that actually doesn't exist in normal English language, like Van Gogh or something? Is it really Van Gogh? What do you guys think? Anyways, I'm a little hesitant to speak too much about it because I want to talk about a lot of this stuff in the next content-free podcast. But statistically speaking, the number of people that listen to these videos and the number of people that listen to the content-free podcasts, there's not very many. It's pretty small, but I'll probably say things here that don't happen in the content-free podcast. I don't know what they are. Anyways, I'm just happy that pretty much the whole time I was here. I mean, I was in New York. I kept on, and then I heard about the hurricane happening. I heard the hurricane was happening even before I left here, and I was afraid. I mean, I left just in the nick of time, and I was afraid that even my flight out wasn't going to be in time. Like I was afraid that one was going to get canceled, because even as I was driving to the airport, that was a dark and stormy night. Like it was the leading edge of the hurricane. I felt like I drove there, it was dark, and I was playing the rock and roll metal music or something. It was crazy. It felt like something out of a movie. I was driving these back roads, swerving, and I wasn't swerving, but they were curvy, and I had the dramatic music going, and the raindrops were pelting against the windshield, and it felt very dramatic, because this sense of doom and gloom and uncertainty was bearing down upon me, despite the fact that the hurricane was bearing down upon me. And I pulled up to the to the airport, and I parked. I got out and I walked into the airport, and they just had like the most relaxing like music, like chill jazz playing, like do 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 do, and it was just like a total shift of tone, you know. And I thought, and I was kind of getting exciting about. I was kind of getting excited about how dramatic and exciting all of this was. But then I kind of wished they had more metal, like rock and roll music playing in the airport is what I'm trying to say. But they didn't. They had very relaxing music. So everything was fine. I made it to New York, and then I kept on reading all these reports, a couple days later, about how bad the rain and the flooding was. And of course, I didn't know anyone here that knew where my house was, or that could go look at it for the whole time. So I just had to keep wondering, is my house, flooding? Is it underwater? Did a tree fall on it? Will I even be able to get back to my house? Because I kept on seeing all these awful pictures, about all these roads underwater. And, if I go back now, will my flight get canceled? Will I be stranded, in Atlanta on my layover? Will I even have electricity for days when I go back? Will I have water? Will I have internet? Will I have all these things? Should I go? Should I wait? So I just kept on waiting for like 3 more days. I finally went back after like 3 days, and I was able to make it back to my house. There was a bridge actually out. There was a bridge out. I had to like backtrack, go around. Finally made it to my house. But flying in over Jacksonville, I actually did see. Like at first I was looking out the window, I was like, it doesn't look that bad. And I couldn't tell whether there were spots of fields that were soggy, or if that was just, hazy spots from clouds casting shadows on fields. But then for sure I did see whole huge roads and fields and parts of forests that were flooded, and huge fields that were completely underwater, and there were houses there in the middle, and people's trailers, and trailer homes and houses just right in the middle of this. They're completely flooded, just poking out, and houses that weren't flooded that had their rips not their rips, their roofs ripped off. So then I started being all scared about what I would find when I got home. But I finally made it home, and it was okay. There was just a bunch of branches down in the yard, and I saw some. The only worst thing I saw was my trash can was knocked over, and the first thing I saw besides the branches was my chickens were outside in the yard. They were all totally fine. I don't know what they did, but they hunkered down somewhere. They weathered the storm, and I saw some shingles in the yard, and I went inside, and I smelled it. It was just like moldy and damp, and it turned out there's a patch of shingles that had been torn off the roof, and I don't know. So like pretty much the whole kitchen. I don't know. I think I made a post about it already, but yeah, things are okay. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking about it too much. But it's okay. Everything's fine. As you can see, still able to draw and make videos. And that's what I'm all about. So, bingo. We're good to go. I'm trying to just work on getting back in the swing of things now. I'm just afraid to drive places now because I'm afraid that there's still like a big shortage of gas. I drove by 2 gas stations on the way home from the airport that had no gas, and I'm afraid, to try to drive to the grocery store because I'm afraid there'll be no groceries. And I bought a bunch of canned food before I left for New York. So I've been eating, I've been eating beans and corn and stuff pretty much. Baked beans and green beans and corn and drinking water. And my carpet's soggy in a little spot in my, anyways, all right, everything's okay. Someone's coming over tomorrow to put tarp on my roof. Anyways, all right, goodbye everybody. Thank you. Oh, also, I'm not allowed, Patreon sent me a message saying I'm not allowed to put, here's what it says. It says, I'll explain this more in the description of this post. It says, it looks like your reward tiers and or posts involve a raffle or giveaway. Can you revise or remove these posts and revise your reward tiers to remove this aspect? Apparently, it's against the terms of use. And it says, so I have to take that away. And so I apologize. And so I guess no more raffles and giveaways, which is a little bit confusing or regrettable. So I apologize. I'll write more about it in the post. All right. But thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Talk to you later.